Shabbat Shalom. During Passover, we're asked to imagine ourselves having fled Egypt. As we relive the story of the Exodus, one moment in particular stands out. We've left Egypt, Pharaoh's vicious army of soldiers and chariots pursues us, and we arrive at the Sea of Reeds. As we look back and see the cloud of dust kicked up by the soldiers' chariots approaching, the only option seemed to be to face Pharaoh's army or to drown in the sea. The Torah tells us that in this moment, we feel deep doubt. We call out to Moses to ask why we even left Egypt. Wouldn't we have been better off had we remained slaves there, we ask? Why did we ever listen to Moses and God if we are either going to be crushed by Pharaoh's army or drown in the sea? Then there's this real moment of bravery. The rabbis teach us that an ordinary man named Nachshon, son of Aminadab, jumped into the Sea of Reeds. Nachshon puts himself on the line and does a literal and figurative leap of faith. Then God parts the waters and we continue on through the sea. We all know what happens next. Pharaoh's soldiers follow us into the sea, but the waters crash back on the army. Safely on the other side, we sing the song of the sea, words of ecstasy that we've at last escaped the wrath of Pharaoh. It's easy to say in our times that we should all be like Nachshon. We should all take that plunge of bravery. As a country, we face real danger. We need bravery. It's tempting for me as a rabbi to stand here and say that we should all stick our necks out and act courageously. We should call our elected officials, we should sign letters, we should take to the streets. We all know the stakes. On March 13th, ICE agents pulled over the car of a Maryland man named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. His 5-year-old son, who has autism, was in the back seat. These law enforcement officials demanded that Abrego Garcia's wife come immediately to pick up their son, and they arrested Abrego Garcia. 2 days later, ICE agents loaded him onto a plane and sent him back to El Salvador. Abrego Garcia has been in the United States since 2011, when he was 16. He came to this country to flee El Salvador after a gang threatened him and his family. And in 2019, an immigration judge ordered that the government could not deport him back to El Salvador because he faced so much danger there. But despite yet another order on March 15th, ordering that they could not deport him, they did deport him. And he is back in El Salvador, and he has had no right to legal due process, or his rights to legal due process have not been respected. Abrego Garcia's case is chilling. Can the federal government now round up whomever they like and ship them off to a prison in a foreign country without a hearing? It's scary that we even have to ask that question. But the danger in the news doesn't stop there. Institutions such as universities and law firms are under attack. The cuts to foreign aid are already hurting some of the most vulnerable people in the world. The economy is teetering, public health is under attack, anti-Semitism is being leveraged into a pretext for a power grab. Will our country, though flawed, lose its commitments to the values that we hold dear? Though there has always been a fight for the soul of the United States, we have made immense progress up to this point. At our best, we as a country welcome immigrants. We treasure universities as places of inquiry and openness, and we extend a helping hand to the most vulnerable people in the world through foreign aid. So we should all be Nachshon, right? We should all take risks. We should all put ourselves out there and stand up for our values. We should go to protests, despite the possibility of facial recognition software in our phones tracking us there. We should all publicly state our values despite the potential that the internet is being monitored. We should all speak clearly despite the justified fears that come with being Jewish. We should, and yet I want to dig deeper into the story of Nachshon. When we talk about Nachshon these days, we tend to gloss over this, but the rabbis who offer Nachshon as an example of real courage also connect him to fear. In the Talmud, they link Nachshon in this moment where he jumps into the sea. They link him to a poem. This poem suggests that Nachshon jumps into the sea feeling real doubt and even fear that he won't make it. Robert Altshuler's translation of that poem, Psalm 69, begins like this. Rescue me, God, for the waters have come to my neck. I have sunk into the slime of the deep, and there is no place to stand. I have entered the watery depths, and the current has swept me away. I am exhausted from my calling out. My throat is hoarse. My eyes fail from hoping for God. More numerous than the hairs of my head are my unprovoked foes. This psalm belongs to a mode of expression we tend not to talk about much in Reform Judaism. Sometimes our tradition cries out in pain, doubt, and fear. Sometimes our tradition gives voice to how we are scared. In this case, it does so poignantly. The poetry, as captured by Altshuler's translation, is remarkable. It uses straightforward and evocative language, and the images stay with you. The water coming up to your neck, the current sweeping you away, the foes as numerous as the hairs on your head. Before he acts bravely, Nachshon eloquently expresses his fear. I want to tell you tonight that this poem is a model for us now. In this moment, we are called to act bravely. As we take that leap of faith, as we do what we can to fight for a better world, we can admit how this moment is frightening. I do not know what political solutions make sense for us in this moment, and if I did, it isn't my role as a rabbi to offer a political agenda. I don't know about all the full consequences of speaking out. That is for each one of us to decide. But I can say that our tradition teaches us to act bravely, and although we don't talk about it much, our tradition links bravery to the practice of crying out in fear and doubt. The day on the Jewish calendar when we give the most voice to our fear and sadness is Tisha B'Av. On this day in late summer, we fast as we cry out at the loss of the first and second temples in Jerusalem. It's traditional to read the Book of Lamentations on this day, which includes graphic and even disturbing descriptions of the bloodshed and destruction that came with the sacking of Jerusalem. Thankfully, we are not at that point in the political life of our country. Our institutions are bending, but they have not broken. We have the power to fight back against the forces in our society that violate our values. Still, as we navigate this scary and dangerous time, we can cry out. Rabbi Rachel Adler has argued forcefully that we Reformed Jews should reclaim lament. She describes how this crying out can be a first step toward remaking the world. And she writes, we can bring to God not only our best behaved, happy selves, but also selves seized by despair, brokenness, a thirst for revenge, and other so-called unacceptable feelings. This is lament, the first step in reconstituting the broken world. Many of us here tonight have learned the hard way in our personal lives that the first step toward healing, the first step toward making yourself a better person, is to admit where you are. Our Jewish tradition teaches us to call out to God when we are in distress, even if we aren't sure exactly what God is. in order to act bravely, in order to fight for the country we want, we can admit how scared we are. We can cry out for democracy. I'd therefore like to conclude with an example of what this supplication could look like. O God, source of all life, God who spoke the universe into being, God who created us on this tiny planet in the grand scheme of the dark expanse, God who gave us the miracle of life, God, know that we are scared. Know that we appreciate how what holds us together is fragile. Know that the balance we thought was stable is teetering. That the bonds that hold our imperfect country together can break. That our bedrock aspiration that we are all entitled to justice is threatened. That this moment is surreal. Hear that we are scared. Hear that we seek direction as we decide how to act. Hear that we don't want to feel helpless. Hear that we struggle to figure out what to do next. God, be with us as we are pursued into the sea. God, show us the way as we fear that we may drown. God, help us plunge into the water. God, make our jumping into the sea lead to our safety on the other side of the ocean. God, help us through this. And we say together, Amen.